Yolanda Saldívar, the woman infamously convicted for the murder of beloved Tejano singer Selena Quintanilla, has remained silent for nearly 3 decades. Now, at 63 years old, she has finally broken her silence, sending shockwaves. Saldívar's close relationship with Selena, as the president of her fan club, took a tragic turn when she was found guilty of fatally shooting the young star. Over the years, her silence has loomed large, leaving many unanswered questions and a mystery surrounding her true feelings and motivations. This recent revelation promises to stir emotions and reignite discussions about one of the most heartbreaking chapters in music history. Background on Yolanda Saldívar. Despite being accused of the brutal murder of Selena, Yolanda Saldívar's life is rather adventurous and far from moral. Saldívar was an ardent follower and quite fond of Selena Quintanilla, a budding Tejano singer and music artist. Her passion and commitment made her president of the Selena fan club, to which she got acquainted with the singer and her family. He was soon trusted with management and sensitive tasks dealing with Selena's boutiques, thus gaining her trust and becoming one of the people close to her. However, this romantic brilliancy was about to turn sour as strains of insecurity revolving around some missing figures from the sugar daddy's account emerged. To which Saldívar was asked by Selena's father, Abraham Quintanilla, to explain inconsistencies in the band's fiscal flow. Still, Selena, known for her friendly and faithful character, never left Saldívar for the growing competitor and enemy, Jaime, expecting to overcome the conflict and resume friendly relations. This led to a sad end of the Osuna Perez story when, on March 31, 1995, Selena agreed to meet Saldívar at a motel in Corpus Christi, Texas, under the guise of recovering some financial papers. This time, Saldívar pulled a gun and shot Selena dead at the age of 23. She was the brothers' favorite singer. The death of Selena shocked the audience all over the world and became a tragic and sad event. Another young man, Saldívar, was detained after a standoff with police that lasted for 9.5 hours. When testifying in court, she said she shot him by accident. However, the members of the jury agreed with the charge of first-degree murder. She was convicted to life imprisonment in the effect that she would be privileged to parole after 30 years in prison. The conviction thus brought to a close a rather sad saga, one that started with adoration and climaxed with disownment and death. The crime and its aftermath. The circumstances that preceded Selena's murder can hardly be called unremarkable or ordinary. They are as sad as they are shocking. On the early morning of March 31, 1995, Selena met Yolanda Saldívar at the Days Inn Motel to discuss some embezzled fiscal documents. Shortly, the meeting degenerated to anger, where Saldívar pulled a revolver and shot Selena in her back as she tried to run away. Though her situation was critical, Selena could make it to the lobby and pointed at Saldívar as her aggressor before fainting. She was taken to the hospital, but they stabilized her. She was, however, dead on arrival due to excessive bleeding and heart failure. It did not take long for everyone to learn about the murder of Selena, and this was a big shock to the music industry and her fans. Selena was a gifted performer, singer, and model with a naturally exuberant personality. However, due to her murder, she could not achieve her potential stardom on television. This lost a considerable part of the fans and the Latin music of the globe at large as a whole. Closely tied to the manipulative telecasts is the trial of Yolanda Saldívar, which received much publicity. During the trial, Saldívar persisted in telling the jury that she aimed at shooting herself, but shot Selena by mistake. However, the prosecution pointed out that the act was deliberate, given that Saldívar's main reason for committing the act was to control Selena and keep her from henceforth withdrawing the money. This made the jury agree with the prosecution and thus found Saldívar guilty of first-degree murder. The public much applauded judgment and conviction that any miscarriage of justice, as they awaited the verdict, was significantly dismissed. Selena's fans and her family finally got some justice that the man was guilty of killing her, although this would not bring back the great singer. Many celebrities paid their respect to Selena, and people went out to the streets to honor her. Fans all around the world created numerous memorials. The case also showed the spectators how trust and betrayal are related and are disastrous in business. Years of silence. Yolanda Saldívar's life in prison has remained a mystery and silence to anybody who wants to know what has happened to her. She has since been incarcerated at the Mountain View unit in Gatesville, Texas, serving her sentence. Her stay in prison has been relatively calm, and she seldom makes the headlines despite serving several years in prison. Some of the inmates in this prison have offered some information about Saldívar, highlighting the worth of this information, stating that she has not been very interactive with other inmates, is very reserved, and has not been involved in any discussions with other inmates. Indeed, though Saldívar was caught in the act of killing the beloved Texan singer Selena, she has never talked to the press or given any interviews regarding the murder of Selena. This has only heightened people's interest and desire to know what she thinks and why she behaves the way she does. Sherry's whereabouts are also unknown, and other essential breakthroughs, such as whether she feels guilty for her actions or stands by her actions, are not well explained due to a lack of proper communication. The public negatively perceived Saldívar when she did not speak out. Most people consider her a woman who shortened the lifespan of a lovely celebrity, and owing to her evil deed, she has maintained silence. Fans still demand much from Selena, and the years have only grown the anger and sorrow people have for losing the singer. From the time she was imprisoned, there has been sporadic information on the state of her health and her demands for medical care. Nevertheless, these reports no longer attract public attention, and she is still forgotten since Selena's memory still dominates the narrative. People's hope and desire to learn something from her about that day remain the same, and people eagerly expected her to testify and explain something. Almost 29 years later, Yolanda Saldívar decides to take a stand and tell her side of the story in a case that altered the direction of Latin music for the better. Her revelations are still threatening to resurface issues that have not been conclusively resolved for the last 3 decades. Breaking her silence. Yolanda Saldívar's life in prison has remained a mystery and silence to anybody who wants to know what has happened to her. She has since been incarcerated at the Mountain View unit in Gatesville, Texas, serving her sentence. Her stay in prison has been relatively calm, and she seldom makes the headlines despite serving several years in prison. Some of the inmates in this prison have offered some information about Saldívar, highlighting the worth of this information, stating that she has not been very interactive with other inmates, is very reserved, and has not been involved in any discussions with other inmates. Indeed, though Saldívar was caught in the act of killing the beloved Texan singer Selena, she has never talked to the press or given any interviews regarding the murder of Selena. This has only heightened people's interest and desire to know what she thinks and why she behaves the way she does. Sherry's whereabouts are also unknown, and other essential breakthroughs, such as whether she feels guilty for her actions or stands by her actions, are not well explained due to a lack of proper communication. The public negatively perceived Saldívar when she did not speak out. Most people consider her a woman who shortened the lifespan of a lovely celebrity, and owing to her evil deed, she has maintained silence. Fans still demand much from Selena, and the years have only grown the anger and sorrow people have for losing the singer. From the time she was imprisoned, there has been sporadic information on the state of her health and her demands for medical care. Nevertheless, these reports no longer attract public attention, and she is still forgotten since Selena's memory still dominates the narrative. People's hope and desire to learn something from her about that day remain the same, and people eagerly expected her to testify and explain something. Almost 29 years later, Yolanda Saldívar decides to take a stand and tell her side of the story in a case that altered the direction of Latin music for the better. Her revelations are still threatening to resurface issues that have not been conclusively resolved for the last 3 decades. Motivations behind speaking out. Yolanda Saldívar broke her silence and came forward after so many years. Why did she do so? The reasons that make her decide like that are unclear and may be influenced by several factors. Others opine that Saldívar wanted to tell her side of the story to be perceived by society more emphatically. Thus, the interview allowed her to justify her actions and to mention her regrets in situations that she could not have done before. Yet another plausible reason might be the audience's continued obsession with Selina's biography and activities. Since documentaries, biopics, and tributes continue to honor Selina, Saldívar might have thought it necessary to give the public an answer to the ongoing discussion and interest in the murder. She had been quite mum about her private life, hence all that was rumored about her, and when she came out to speak, it was in defense. Opponents argue in the same regard, while psychologists and experts give extra perspective into the rationale behind Saldívar's choice. An independent expert in psychology, Dr. Maria Lopez, also shares that time could have been a factor as to why Saldívar agreed to come out in the open. As people grow older, their perception of their actions changes, says Dr. Lopez. Saldívar may have felt like killing herself and may have wanted to tell someone, to get something off her chest and get some form of forgiveness. There is also the likelihood that Saldívar was advised or pressured by her legal team or advisors, who might have thought doing the interview was to their advantage. This is likely so that she may get a sympathetic ear from the community, mainly the members of the jury, and even make preparations for the subsequent possible parole hearing that she intends to attend. Key revelations and statements. Yolanda Saldívar's interview can be seen as shocking and full of revelations that have brought forth the discussion of Selina's death. Perhaps the strangest thing that Saldívar said is that the shooting was unintentional. She gave details of a scuffle with Selina, during which the former produced the gun in what can only be described as desperation more than premeditation. This was an account given by Saldívar that the gun was fired accidentally, thus firing the deadly shot. That was important information that Saldívar revealed new information on the relationship that she had had with Selina. She referred them to how they met as friends, explaining that she found Selina to be extremely naive and had a lot of faith in people. In her defense, Saldívar said that Selina was not her enemy and that she was a close friend to her, which makes the occurrence such a tragedy. The other primary disclosure was the circumstance of the money issues that triggered the conflict, according to Saldívar. Though she agreed with the auditors that there were irregularities in the funds, she did not express any show of embezzlement, but rather negligence and poor accountability. This new information just brings out how a little boy named Saldívar was involved with the murder of the Quintanilla family, and how he connected with them as a cousin on the same side. Saldívar also stated how she felt sorry for what she did, having to live with the guilt and shame of murder every single day. This prompted her to come out and apologize to Selina's family and fans as she recognized the amount of hurt that she had inflicted on them. Her powerful and rather provocative words touched the emotions of viewers, leaving them with different feelings. Even as he narrated the crime to me during the interview, the various things that he said on the issue were thought-provoking. She told me about the loneliness and depression she and other inmates know inside the prison and the special episodes that made her hope for absolution. Some aspects include the observations of the reality show portrayal and the fact that while she gave detailed accounts of much of the story and emotive crying, she portrayed some humanity to a story that is usually seen as tragedy and betrayal. This information tends to make people suffer and, most importantly, revives the issue of Saldívar's involvement and the truth behind Selina's murder. While the world is digesting her words, the impact and heritage of Selina Quintanilla stay vivid and intense. People still listen to her music and remember her. Legal and social implications. Thus, Yolanda Saldívar's decision to end her silence still poses legal and social repercussions. From a legal point of view, she could be cross-examined based on her statements while in prison, or when she is appealing for parole. Thus, while her confession of the crime and the words of sorrow expressed might be seen as the first signals of her desire to reform, it is still unclear how these factors will affect her chances of parole. Scholars have also waded into the question. Based on these and many more revelations, perhaps the shooting was accidental and may be viewed as an effort to minimize accountability on the part of Saldívar. But judging from the gravity of the crime committed ahead of the trial and the evidence that was produced against the convict, the statements are less likely to affect her sentencing. The ongoing legacy of Selena Quintanilla is still a light in the music industry today, shining brightly even when her life was violently extinguished. Later, she became more culturally and musically acclaimed even after her death due to some reasons. Selena was not only a talented singer and entertainer who significantly contributed to Latin music, but she also left behind a great ray of sunshine, persona, and hope that she gave to her fans. How she died has influenced people to remember her in such a manner. Yolanda Saldívar's contribution to that sad tale forms a bleak narrative in the glorious narrative of Selena's life. Still, it has yet to succeed in diminishing the rays of light the icon stands for. She is acclaimed to this date, and it also comes from the fact that the era of Latin icons continues to expand with more artists following the footsteps of La Lupe. Saldívar's most recent actions have introduced a new twist in this scenario, which to date was defined by the Cow TV interview. However, her delusional decision to justify her actions might have been an attempt to redo spin-doctoring her story. Still, it has not taken anything away from the continued love and admiration fans of Selena have for her. Instead, such discoveries could reinforce Selena as a discovery of an abnormal talent and praise her as a loss that can hardly be replaced. It should be understood that fans and the public will likely ponder these new aspects, but they also go on cherishing Selena's life and success stories. While Selena's true narrative gains a progressive meaning with every subsequent discovery, the latter continues to be unchangeable. Her fans love and adore her, and these feelings will definitely stand the test of time and supersede any controversy that might surround her death. Fortunately, Selena's legacy lives to this day in the affection of people who do not recall her only by the tragedy, but also by the happiness and the music that was born of it. They have finally been captivated by Yolanda Saldívar's quiet treatment, which she has been delivering for all of those years of her life. This has brought the discussion on Selena Quintanilla's passing back to life. Selena's powerful and enduring memory is incomparable to Saldívar's statements, despite the fact that they caused a buzz and added uncertainty to the situation. The evidence of Selena's influence may still be seen in her songs, as well as in the widespread admiration that people have for her at this time. Despite the fact that Saldívar's statements have provided Selena with new impressions, the coming-out modifications are not significant and do not modify the facts about Selena. The public is attempting to come to terms with the meaning of Saldívar's comments, or the lack thereof, but Selena's music and her devotion for people cannot be called into question under any circumstances. As a result, this affords the audience the opportunity to ponder straightforward ideas like forgiveness and the manner in which the erasures of the past shape the viewer's impression of the coupling of the characters. In light of the new confessions made by Yolanda Saldívar, many are unable to refrain from talking about the work of Selena Quintanilla. It is time for you to share your thoughts. What perspectives do you have regarding Saldívar's statements, and how do you believe this will impact Selena's legacy in the years to come? You are able to communicate your ideas and interact with us through various social networks. Remember to hit the notification bell for more information and our regular breakdowns of the events that matter to us. This is where you come in to keep the conversation going and shed more light on fame, tragedy, and the concept of legacy.